German Expressionism is an artistic movement that began in early 20th century Germany. The movement is often characterized by focusing on conveying inner thoughts and emotions rather than a physical reality. This is done by using exaggerated forms, distortions, bold colors, and dramatic contrast between light and dark. This movement also sought out to express the angst and emotional turmoil found in a post-World War I era. This movement significantly impacted many art forms, including film. And when executed correctly, German Expressionism can evoke a sense of unease and explore the psychological states of the characters being portrayed. And the influences of this movement can be found in modern horror films such as Edward Scissorhands, Sleepy Hollow, and The Babadook. This style has continued to shape visual and thematic elements of iconic films and inspired filmmakers to continue to explore the darker aspects of human nature through similar stylistic choices and imagery. German Expressionism is a film style that, despite having been around since the early 20th century, has continued to influence modern film and media such as the horror genre to this day. Furthermore, some early German Expressionist mediums include the films Metropolis and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Both films were released in the 1920s, and the film Metropolis is a 1927 film that provides a great example of the German Expressionist style and look. The film was directed by Fritz, a pivotal figure within the movement, and the film uses heavily distorted and exaggerated visuals, along with dramatic and exaggerated acting performances that contribute to the distinctive style of German Expressionism. Featured are vast cityscapes that are used to portray the industrial power of the futuristic society in the film. The film also uses stark contrast between light and dark and exaggerated shadows to further portray the dramatic tension and emotional turmoil between the characters. The film exemplifies the style and emotions that German Expressionist cinema aims to portray. Another film that exemplifies this style is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. According to Petri Oza, it provides a spectacle horror with fine camera work, pacing, and an artistic spitter that add to the pure hope in the pure performance. The film is renowned for its use of distorted perspectives and otherworldly set design. For example, when Cesare is carrying Jane up what looks like a building, the setting is so distorted that it looks like he is climbing up a zigzag-like statue instead of walking upon the roof of a building. These visuals reflect the mental instability and madness of the film's main character, Cesare. Additionally, the film explores the darker aspects of the human psyche by involving themes such as insanity, manipulation, and the questioning of one's own reality. These same things are also found in modern horror films, thus illustrating the impacts the German Expressionism style has on horror. The genre of horror can be described as a story in which the focus is on creating a feeling of fear. This genre can also address more realistic psychological fears, and since the 1800s, with novels such as The Castle of Otranto and Frankenstein, the horror genre has existed for many years. Initially, horror was the path for human beings to assess and explain the unknown through storytelling and stories about supernatural beings and monsters. As the genre matured, the likes of Edgar Allan Poe became the bridge of work within the horror genre. The horror genre skyrocketed with the advent of cinema. Think of Dracula, along with the numerous feature library adaptations of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Modern horror has also begun to delve into a more psychological idea of horror and what makes us human. Certain modern horror films share a clear resemblance to past German Expressionist films, thus exemplifying the influence German Expressionism has had on modern horror. These films include Edward Scissorhands, Sleepy Hollow, and the character design of the main antagonist of the film, the Babadook. These films all contain certain elements of German Expressionism in their character design, thematic undertones, and set design. In Edward Scissorhands, the character Edward exhibits a pale complexion, dark hair, and exaggerated features, along with the shape and design of his scissor hands. Also, the gothic nature of his character, along with the exaggerated and almost cartoon-like setting, convey a sense of alienation and create a somber tone of the film. For example, in one scene in Edward Scissorhands, Edward is seen walking towards the camera with his arms out by his side. The scene resembles and almost mirrors a scene in the film Metropolis, where the I don't know how to say it, or Maria, the human-like robot found in the film, is also walking towards the camera with her arms by her side. The shadows and camera angles are almost identical. The film Sleepy Hollow features characters and settings that are also exaggerated. The dark nature and tone of the film create an almost dreamlike quality, and the character of the Headless Horseman is an embodiment of the German Expressionist fascination with the unusual and supernatural. Also, the character designs seen in the film The Babadook contain a dark and unsettling tone, with distorted features, and the shadowy figure itself, as seen in early German Expressionist films, symbolizes the main character's inner psychological struggles and turmoil. For example, the character of the Babadook shares an eerily similar design to the Man in the Beaver Hat from the 1927 film London After Midnight. Both the Babadook and the Man in the Beaver Hat both wear top hats and have almost the same hairstyle and clothing. The Babadook almost seems like the same character but modernized. Even though the film London After Midnight is a lost horror film that was not considered a German Expressionist film, it is heavily influenced by the movement. The Babadook not only shares a resemblance to the man in the beaver hat, but also the character Césaire from the German Expressionist film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Both characters are similar in stature, aesthetic, with dark hair and exaggerated facial features. Moreover, German Expressionism is made up of stylistic choices that define the movement. This movement is characterized by its use of exaggerated acting styles. For example, in Edward Scissorhands, the main character does not speak. Instead, the character uses expressive faces and movements to convey certain emotions and what the character is trying to say. Also, a defining characteristic of German Expressionism that can be found in modern horror is the use of stylistic choices in order to portray certain emotions or psychological experience without having to explain it directly. For example, in the film The Babadook, it is revealed that the Babadook itself is a personification of grief, depression, and motherhood that is being experienced by the main character. This proves that the German Expressionist style uses not only settings, camera work, or color to convey emotions or psychological states, but entire characters themselves. Each of these films use stylistic choices to evoke emotion and explore the human psyche, making them modern examples of the influence of the German Expressionist movement on modern horror. German Expressionism is a pivotal movement within the film industry. The unique stylistic choices of the movement have left a lasting impact on the industry, specifically modern horror. These elements are used to portray emotional and psychological states, along with the inner turmoil and struggles that the characters might be facing. This allows the audience to empathize with the characters and delve into their own inner psyche. German Expressionism not only reflected the societal turmoil during the time for its upbringing, but has paved the way for future movements in exploring human emotions in creative ways.